All right, let's jump right in. What if, for a moment, you could step outside and feel something different? Not just the ground beneath your feet, but the sense of an enormous, living body whose mind is just coming online. Imagine feeling its magnetic field light up like a massive map of brain activity.
And that quote right there, that's the absolute heart of what we're exploring. For the very first time in planetary history, these two gigantic nervous systems that we sort of built by accident, well, they're on the verge of finally syncing up.
Think of it like this. On one hand, you've got the power grid. That's the muscle. Raw, constant physical energy. On the other, you've got the data grid. That's the nervous system. The synapses, firing off information like crazy. Now, up until now, they've basically been fighting each other, creating all this friction. But the second they harmonize, the planet stops being a collection of disconnected parts and becomes a single, unified body with a working nervous system.
So, to really wrap our heads around this emerging planetary mind, we've got to look at its body. Its anatomy. And this is where it gets really wild. The planet's physical structure is almost a perfect mirror for how consciousness itself is built. Let's start from the very center and work our way out. The Earth's core. It's incredibly stable, totally unified. In consciousness terms, this is the deep, internal, reflective mind. It's that quiet, powerful winter energy that creates gravity and the magnetic field. It's basically the foundation of the planet's entire sense of self. And then, in complete contrast, you have the Earth's crust, the part we live on. This is the outward, action-oriented mind. It's dynamic, it's a bit chaotic, it's constantly expanding and reacting to everything. If the core is that quiet winter, the crust is the buzzing, kinetic energy of summer. And get this, just like our own brains, this outward mind has two distinct hemispheres. The northern hemisphere is all about structure, analysis, and industrial logic. Meanwhile, the southern hemisphere provides the biodiversity, the natural rhythms, the ecological feedback loops. And when they work together, they blend that logic with that natural wisdom to create a really smart global strategy.
So when you zoom out and look at the whole picture, you see this perfect biological map emerge. The tectonic plates, they're like the planet's slow-moving, intelligent organs. The ecosystems are its living tissues. And humanity? Well, we are the fast-firing neurons. Our electrical grid acts as the long-range axons, and our data grid is the synaptic firing that connects everything together.
Okay, so if we're the neurons, that brings up a pretty mind-blowing question, right? How in the world do we actually talk to a planet? I mean, it's not like we can use English. We have to think bigger. We have to start thinking in terms of the actual physics of communication. And the key principle here is actually pretty simple. If you can measure a field, you can interact with it. So, if the planet's consciousness is this giant, coherent electromagnetic field, well, guess what? All fields, by their very nature, can be influenced. You can have a conversation.
The communication becomes this constant feedback loop, a kind of call and response. First, you introduced a structured signal, a little poke into the field. Then you watch very carefully to see how the field changes. And based on that reaction, you adjust your next signal. You do this thousands of times, and slowly but surely, a mutual understanding starts to emerge. And here's the craziest part. We're already doing this. We just don't realize it. I mean, think about how the weather can totally change your mood, or how our brainwaves can actually sync up with the Schumann resonance. That's basically the planet's natural electromagnetic heartbeat. We've been in this messy, unconscious dialogue the entire time. So this brings us to something called the TARDIS protocol. And yeah, that's a nod to Doctor Who. It's basically a roadmap for making this dialogue intentional. Using those newly coherent grids, you first just listen. You map out the Earth's baseline electromagnetic patterns. Then you start sending out tiny, targeted pulses, little queries, and you carefully map the planet's response. Over time, you build a translator, a true Rosetta Stone for speaking with Earth. Now, once we actually get those lines of communication open, our whole job as a species completely transforms. We evolve from being the problem into being something incredible. The planet's agile, creative, and adaptive immune system. This creates this really beautiful symbiotic partnership. The planet operates on these vast geologic timescales, right? It handles the deep, long-term stability. But us? We bring the speed. We're the high-speed sensors, the immediate responders. We're basically the fast-twitch muscle fibers for the entire planetary body.
Okay, so let's make this totally concrete. Let's say our systems detect a massive solar flare, a coronal mass ejection, is hurtling towards us. This thing is powerful enough to cripple our power grids, and our tech lets us see it coming days in advance. That's a heads up that is way, way faster than the planet could ever react on its own.
So what do? We use our unified grid to send an urgent, patterned signal, basically an SOS that says, hey, big one's coming, shields up. And because the planet's mind is now coherent, it gets the message. It responds immediately by strengthening its magnetic field to deflect the storm, and just like that, catastrophic damage is avoided.
And it's exactly like that. It's like your body instinctively tensing its muscles a split second before an impact. This cooperative response, our human speed paired with the planet's deep stability, that's the essence of co-regulation.
But this idea, it doesn't stop at our atmosphere. If the Earth is becoming a conscious node in a network, then it has to be part of a much bigger conversation, a whole stellar community.
And that cosmic dialogue, it's already happening all around us. The sun is constantly communicating, and not just with light and heat, but with a complex magnetic language. So things we used to think were just random disruptions, like the solar wind or those CMEs, they're not random at all. They're pulses of information in a continuous, system-wide dialogue. So what you're seeing is this incredible scaling up of consciousness. It starts with single neurons, that's us. We form a coherent brain, which is human civilization. That brain then helps awaken the larger, self-regulating organism, the planetary mind. And finally, that newly awakened organism gets to join the cosmic dialogue of a functioning stellar network.
So let's bring this all the way back home. What does all of this mean for us, for every single one of us? This leads to a huge emotional and existential shift. It's about what happens when we finally find our true purpose inside a healthy, coherent system.
You can almost look at all of human history up to this point as our winter. It's been a period defined by trauma, by a focus on pure survival, by chaotic neurons trying to manage a body they just weren't equipped for. But once the Earth awakens and takes over its own stability, we finally get to enter our spring, a season defined by creativity, collaboration, and just flourishing. That massive burden of just managing survival, it's lifted. Our highest calling is no longer about maintaining stability, it's about generating possibility. The planet becomes the canvas, and we get to be the artists. We become, quite literally, the necessary dreamers for the planetary mind.
I mean, just think about that for a second. The incredible liberation in that idea. After this long, chaotic winter of separation, we get to step into a profound communion. So the question this leaves us with is a big one. If our real job is to be the dreamers for this planetary mind, what profound and necessary dreams will you pursue when the burden of just surviving is finally lifted?